Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. And thank you for taking your time to join us for an hour discussing on can you run a business without social media? That's a huge question, isn't it? It's kind of like the law of, life. So, all right. Uh, for the next hour, we're going to be talking with these lovely ladies. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then we're going to do some housekeeping, and then we're going to talk to each of them. My name is Regina Garay. I run Right Brain Loves Left. You can find me at rightbrainlovesleft.com, and I help small businesses with marketing, digital marketing, goals, and AI, and everything made manageable. I actually came up with the idea for this panel because a client of mine said to me, I get nauseous whenever I think about posting or whenever I think about social media. And that's an actual physical reaction, and I said, "Are you serious?" She's like, "I'm completely serious. It just I just don't want to do it." So I thought, all right, well, we got through that particular speed bump together, but it brought up the idea of, could you run a business without social media? And I think you could. And there's many things that you need to put in place in order to support that. So that's why we have the panel today. Uh, I'm going to give you a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, the meeting is going to be recorded, and you will be the first. All of you who signed up will be the first to have the recording sent to them so that you can watch it. And second is that the chat, we're running it a little bit differently. The chat is going to be seen only by the panelists and myself, the co-hosts. And please feel free to put in any questions that come up for you. If you have a particular question for a specific person, go ahead and put their name in there and we will see those questions. So if we can answer them in the middle of everything, or we do have a Q&A section at the end, so we can answer them then. So just to let you know that that's there for you at any time. I will also be monitoring the participants just to keep letting people in, because I know that we have some others coming in. And so I'll remind you of this housekeeping in the middle again, so for the newbies. All right. So we're going to dig right in, and I would love you ladies to introduce yourselves, tell us uh, about your business, and tell us why we are talking about uh, can you run a business without social media? Susan, we'll start with you, then Jen, and we'll finish with Astrid.
All righty. Thanks so much for having me today, Regina. Listen, I am Susan Trumpler, and I am a reformed sales and marketing coach who used to push social media pretty heavily
Mm-hmm.
as a way to get introduced to people. Um, and I believe now that there's new ways. Here's the way I like to say it: the playbook changed, you guys. The one that said you got to post to meet people, you have to run funnels. It's all changing. A lot of it's because of AI, and that's what I teach people: is how the new playbook is working and where to show up so that you can create trust and visibility.
Excellent. Thank you, Susan. Jen, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here with all of you today. This is one of my favorite topics, and I'm excited to learn from all the other panelists as well. So my name is Jen Jones Donatelli. I am a certified coach and creative facilitator, and I'm also a journalist by trade. So I spent about 20 years in the media field, working in different capacities. And I now use kind of what I learned as a journalist to help solopreneurs, small business owners, subject matter experts like interior designers, dermatologists, realtors, and such. How to really get the keys of the kingdom and, become visible basically through DIY PR. And it's something that has worked really well for me and my clients. And I love sharing it with people because a lot of people think, you need a high budget to be able to retain a PR firm, or you need to be at a certain
Yes.
level of expertise, to put yourself out there. And so I love kind of making it more accessible, and helping it feel within reach. And so that has been a tool that has really been critical, for me and my clients who want to be visible in other ways outside of social media. So I'm excited to kind of talk about that piece today.
Excellent. Thank you, Jen. Astrid, last
Hi.
but never
So,
least.
Yes. Well, I'm really pleased to be here and to meet all of you. So my name is Astrid, and I work with female small business owners and creatives and freelancers who want to have a business kind of different from the norm. So my keywords are slow, gentle, and profitable. So without the hustle and without the hacks, and marketing without social media for some people is part of that. And it's definitely part of that for me. When I started my business, I was definitely told that I needed to be on social media and I needed to post all the time. So I made all the plans and whatever. And then in 2021, I got incredibly fed up with social media, and I took a 2 week break that I'm still on. I ended up leaving. For me, social media was Instagram. So I ended up leaving and deleted my account in the end. And I've been running a successful business ever since.
Beautiful. Thank you. And it's inspiring as well. So, all right, everyone. So I'm going to start with a very big question, and then I'm going to ask you individual questions to see, and then just kind of bring a well-rounded look at this topic. So the first one is, what is the first thing you would tell someone who runs a small business who's thinking about pulling back on social media, but they're terrified of disappearing? And you can just jump right in. What do you tell them?
I'll start if you guys don't mind. I'll start.
Sure,
Go
absolutely.
for it.
Oh gosh. First thing I'm going to ask is, how's it been going for you? Right? So you show up on social media and you post. Are you getting engagement? And what I'm hearing from the people that I work with is they are frustrated as all get out because they're doing the thing and they're doing the thing and nothing's happening. So your fear about not being visible is really you are not visible, or you're not visible in a way that people are engaging with you. So is it really making a difference for your business? What you want to do is find a different way to be visible that you invest your time in that will get results for you. So
Yeah.
be scared, little bear.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point about being on social media and thinking that you're being visible. I think one of the things that makes social media such a, I mean, first of all, there's this, I guess what you'd call the old playbook of you have to be on social media, but also posting on social media feels like you've done something, but it also feels like you're kind of immediately out there. And of course, with all the different algorithms and what have you, that's no longer the case, right? You're not necessarily visible, and you're not necessarily reaching the people that you want to reach. And I was thinking also about what you said at the beginning, Regina, about that client of yours who felt nauseous. I think that is such important input, because I think too many of us kind of force ourselves to market in a way that makes us feel nauseous. So I think that's important data, right? And do you want to pull back, right? Do you just want to do less? Okay, so what is it that does feel okay about it? What doesn't? So that's where I'd start. And also start thinking about, okay, so how can I get people to go where I want them to go? Make sure that your bio is updated. Be very explicit in your posts. Come find me here, come find me there. Instagram and other social media doesn't necessarily like that, but it's your business and your marketing.
That is so true. I think a lot of it is also revolving around, you said this, Astrid, who are we and what do we like? I remember taking a funnels class years ago, and they gave us templates on the emails and all that. And when I sent the emails out, I was cringing because it did not sound like me. It was so selly. And I was just like, and you break trust, I think, with your audience
Yeah.
if they hear something from you that doesn't really sound like you. And so I also think that marketing should be where you like to be, because if you don't like to be there, just like the person who was nauseous, it's going to show. It's going to show. So, all right. Astrid, I'm going to start with you. coming in. So, as you mentioned, you left social media in 2021 and you rebuilt your entire marketing around your newsletter. What was the scariest part of that transition and what surprised you the most?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the scariest part was going against all the advice that I'd been given, because by that point I'd been running my business for nearly 3 years, and I'd taken a bunch of courses and been part of masterminds and all the stuff, and they all had like content planners, and this is when you post on social media, and this is what you post, and all of that. So consciously going against that, also with this idea of, who am I to do this? But I was so fed up, and I tried everything. I tried posting every day, and then I tried like giving myself theme days to feel like a little better. And then I tried planning way in advance. And then I tried it all, and then I just got so fed up. And I think that feeling of being so fed up kind of made me feel like, you know what? This is it. I'm going to leave. And I think what surprised me most, I was thinking about that question because you asked it, you emailed it to me before. I think what surprised me is that I started enjoying marketing. And I sometimes smile to myself. Now I talk quite a bit about marketing and run a program about it and whatever. But when I started my business, marketing felt like this necessary evil that I had to do. And I didn't know how to. How was I supposed to do that? I didn't want to market. I wanted to work with people. But I think taking that step of leaving social media for me was also incredibly empowering, and thinking about, okay, so I get to set my rules and I get to really lean into my strengths and the things that I enjoy in my business. And for me, that was prioritizing my newsletter a lot more. So in that sense, I think that inspired me, just how empowering that was, and that I no longer think marketing is like a dirty word or something that feels like, as I said, a necessary evil.
I love that you said marketing became a joy because
Yeah,
so many, as small business owners, we wear all the hats. Okay, human resources, sales,
yeah,
and to put on some of those hats are not always enjoyable, but to find it enjoyable after, you were fed up with it, that
yeah,
it just said that that particular lane was not the joy for you.
yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. So why Substack specifically? Because I know you do your newsletter on Substack. And what do you say to the small business owner who says nobody ever wants to read newsletters anymore?
Yeah. So initially, for me, the move wasn't so much from social media to Substack. I moved my newsletter to Substack in late 2022, I think, primarily because I really liked the comment feature. And I still really like it, because sending out newsletters can be lonely, right? Because people are not used to answering a newsletter. We, as people who send a newsletter, don't get answers, and it can feel like you're kind of into the void, writing into the void. So I moved to Substack in 2022, and this idea of it kind of lost my thread there. I moved to Substack for primarily the comment feature, and also a little bit for the paid feature, with this idea of creating a little bit of a more intimate crowd. If you think that no one reads newsletters anymore, I hear that a lot. People say, "Oh, there's newsletter fatigue," and that all may be true. But I think as small business owners, we have a superpower, and that means the superpower is that we are human. And if you look at your inbox, I mean, my inbox is just today full of like delivery notifications from DHL and like an email from my dentist, and all of this, stuff about, an insurance that's renewing. But that has a completely different feel from a small business owner who's really showing their humanness in themselves, and personalizing an email a little bit without, bearing all. You don't need to share everything that you don't want to share. But I think that we need to remember that we are not those annoying emails, right? If we are intentional and, what you said, Regina, kind of stick with your own voice, and show your humanness in that sense, I think we can send the kind of newsletters that someone looks forward to.
Can I piggyback on that really quickly, Regina?
Yes, please, please.
I think, Astrid, from my experience with Substack, it feels like an authentic community that you're building there through thought leadership, as opposed to like when you say the word newsletter, sometimes people put that into a bucket of, oh, it's all about them and their business. But to me, when I look at your Substack, things that you're writing and sharing out there, it feels more authentic and connected. And that's why I don't consider Substack social media. I know some people do. I don't. I think it's a community building. And that's my whole perspective on this is people need to be able to trust you. The way they trust you is to get to know you, and you get to know people by being authentic and sharing your thought leadership with a community. It goes in that direction for me.
Yeah, that's a great point, Susan. And I think many small business owners think that the only thing they have to say is, oh, I've got a new product out there. But you have more to say because you're an expert on something, even though you may not feel it. And people are curious. People love to know the story behind whatever it is that you do. And you can share that without being too personal or feel gross. And that's when you get that community sense.
Can I build on that too for a second?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
Well, no, you just had me thinking, Astrid, because, I think we all have email fatigue to some degree or, overflowing inboxes. But I think you're right. I think there are certain newsletters that we look forward to seeing in our inbox that feel like a treat, that feel like non-negotiables, like I'm making the time to read this. And I'll just share, like, from a best practices standpoint, like I've seen a couple people use lead magnets really well to get people in the habit of opening their emails. There's two particular people I'm thinking of. One did like a 14-day private podcast as a free lead magnet where every day, she sent out the email, and it was kind of like a progression that you move through. I think it was a morning meditation. And then the other person was an EFT tapping practitioner, and she did a 21-day series where she would send out a simple tapping sequence every morning, that you could click and tap through with her. And it was really easy, took less than 5 minutes. But by the end of those sequences, you were used to receiving the daily emails, you enjoyed it, and you engaged or interacted with them in some way. So it's kind of cool to think about that entry point, and how you can get people into the habit, right from the start.
Yeah, I love that. I love those ideas. I was going to say that years and years and years ago, I bought a book, and I'm blanking on her name. I'm going to send this. She wrote a book called Creating a Patterned Home, and her style was like my style. And so I signed up for her newsletter, and the first one that she sent was Life on Her Farm, and she sells yarn kits. And I don't use yarn. I don't do, but the entire farm life, the sheep, the barn, the look, and what was going on and what craft fair she was going to, I was enthralled, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And every time she came in, it didn't matter if I was in the middle of a project, I read that newsletter. So I started, in case anybody's interested in, and newsletters, you should have one for your small business. Sign up for different types of newsletters and just read what you enjoy receiving, because that is also a way of being true to your audience. And that's kind of how I developed mine, where I share my stories, and I really, and I sometimes when I go on vacation, I share pictures, it's a whole, I think it's just that connection with somebody, but you need to find that way that you can write, that's not, hey, I have this something new, and that's the only email you send for 6 months. It's, all right. Jen, I'm going to go to you next because you are talking about press and podcasts, which is a very great way to also maintain marketing outside of social media. And Astrid, thank you very much, and all three of you, for your notes on newsletters. So most small business owners think that they're not interesting enough to get press. They're like, listen, I do my work, I go home, that's it. What, I lead a boring life, But they don't. They really don't. So, what would you say to somebody who feels like their story is too ordinary to pitch?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think, and that obviously that's a common thing, right? Where you may experience some imposter syndrome when you start doing visibility work. That's totally normal, and something that you can move through. And the best way to move through it is just to start. And I think, when you say get press, a lot of us picture like, okay, someone's going to write an article about me, maybe a profile about me as a business owner or profile of me and my business. And of course, that is a very powerful way of getting press and getting media coverage. But there are other ways to get press and PR. And actually, Susan, I'm going to use you as an example. And kind of like what you were talking about, Regina, about the farm life, that personal piece. You can share parts of your personal story that will resonate with others and draw people into your world who are your ideal client. So Susan and I worked together on a personal essay where she talked about how, she's in her mid 60s and she has no desire to retire, and all the plans she has for her future and how she has two businesses. And, at the time, she was working with women in that age group who were maybe starting new businesses or developing big visions for their life. And so she wrote this first person essay that was published in Business Insider that would really land with the people she was looking to work with. And so it was her personal story, but it was a different way of attracting people into her world. And then the other piece is, along with articles about you and your business, you can also show up as an expert inside different types of articles being quoted. So basically lending credibility and expertise. There are what I call bridge platforms out there, things like Quoted, Harrow, Source of Sources, where you can directly connect to reporters, to podcasters, to TV show producers and such who need experts, again, to layer on to what they're already working on. So you might be able to speak directly from your expertise. The article isn't necessarily about you, but you're included in the article as a credible expert. And those are just a few different ways you can get press. So I would say to kind of broaden your idea of what getting press means, if that's something that's coming up for you. And then also to think about your strengths. If you're somebody that loves just having like really organic, off the cuff conversations, then maybe podcasts are where you want to center your energy. If you'd rather do kind of really prepared email interviews where you have time to think about what you're going to say, using those bridge platforms where you're essentially typing up your quotes, might be a great place for you to start. So just kind of tapping into your strengths and then broadening your idea of what getting press could look like, I think will help you feel a lot more comfortable from the jump if you're going to start doing PR work.
Love that. And also the mention that the whole article doesn't have to be about you and your business. If you just provide a tremendous quote in the middle, that, there are times that I've read articles and I'm like, who is that? And what do they do? And oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I didn't know this information, and I searched them out, completely, and they weren't even the feature of the article. So,
right. And link building is a really important piece too. So a lot of people do this work more for the link building. So if you're getting backlinks from, Business Insider or Time or National Geographic, those websites have really high domain authority. So even if you just have maybe a small quote in a bigger piece, you're getting that valuable backlink that is essentially building up your own website presence.
Yeah.
Yes, love it.
Can I add something to that? Because I love how you said at the beginning that, we all have imposter syndrome with visibility, because I think we all do. One thing that I've sometimes talked about with my clients and things that I did myself is kind of think about, okay, so if you want to start really small, you could also think about kind of collaborations. So is there anyone that you could do a collaboration with that, maybe a collaboration with on a product or service, or even smaller? I once did what do we call it? Like a blog interview exchange, whatever we call it, with someone else. And I'd read her newsletter, and it was on social media. And I asked her, how about we have a conversation through our blogs about this? And then I published kind of the questions that I asked her on my website, and she published questions for me plus my answers on hers. And that is a lovely way of kind of like getting in front of someone else's audience as the somewhat tired phrase goes. And I also did an interview series with other small business owners when I started off my business, and I asked them to share as well. And that was just a really nice way to kind of build up kind of the muscle of asking someone else to share something. But it also meant that people that sometimes had bigger platforms than I did, that they would share about me and then bring new people to me. So there are also, if you're still building up your courage, smaller ways. But I love what you mentioned, Jen, all of these, you don't have to wait to be discovered, I think is also what you said, Jen.
Yeah, and actually, you have me kind of thinking about it's not a straightforward collaboration, but there's a website called Connectively, which until recently was called Featured. And basically, what it is you answer. This is a very simple, boiled out of it, but what it is you basically answer a question related to your expertise, and this website curates the best 10 to 12 answers from different experts and publishes them as a roundup article. So, one of my clients was featured in one about burnout at work. So she was one of, 12 career coaches that kind of weighed in and gave their response, to this question. It was published in Fast Company. But I consider that a collaboration of sorts
That
because,
is,
you're
yeah.
in the article alongside 11 other experts. And you can use it as a networking, launch pad as well. You can reach out to the others who were featured in the article, say, hey, I saw we were in this Fast Company article together, would love to connect. There's different ways you can leverage this work, but again, you're part of a bigger whole, a bigger collective, which might help build your confidence along the way.
I love that. And I also, not only having those platforms that help people, connect and get more visible, but also, Astrid, what you were saying, build that muscle in case you're too shy to go big, just yet. Build that muscle and ask your peers and ask, other um, equal, in your network to do these collaborations, these blog interviews, all of that. Love it. Jen, I do have a follow-up question for you, and it is, what has surprised you the most about the small business owners who have successfully landed press mentions and podcast guest sessions, and what did they all have in common?
Ooh, so what I have to say might be a little bit unexpected because this is what came up for me when you asked that question.
Oh,
I'm
let's do it.
always surprised by how many people do not tout out their press placement after they get it. We work so hard to secure these press placements or podcast interviews, and then it goes off gently into the night and the tree falls in the forest and
You
nobody
get
sees
shy
it.
about being
And
mentioned.
that's when the imposter syndrome is creeping up again because you did the work. You got the article, you got the placement, you got the podcast, but now it's just kind of in a treasure chest somewhere. And I'm always very surprised by, how kind of reticent people are to put it out there. And so some of the tips I give around that is there's different ways you can put it out there. One, you can make a little blurb in your newsletter. Maybe it's not the whole focus in the newsletter, but maybe it's like a PS, like, hey, I was recently in Fast Company talking about how to overcome burnout at work. Would love for you to check out the article, or you can build on the tip that you shared in the article, maybe make a carousel out of it. Well, not a carousel because we're not on social media, right? But like you could make a newsletter, you could make a Substack post, or you could make a social media post if you are partially on social media, right?
Mhm.
But I like to say, use the whole buffalo. So if you're gonna do the hard work to get the placements, like do not shy away from sharing it with the world. And a lot of people think it feels like bragging or like I don't want to come off a certain way. So there are ways to come from a place of service, with it. And if it's one of these bigger articles where it's a roundup, you can use that to shout out some of the other people in the article or say like, oh, I thought this was
Yes.
brilliant. So there's different ways to build on it that don't feel like, hey, like, and it's okay to be like, hey, right? Like you're
It's an
allowed to
achievement.
step
Yeah.
out as an expert in your field. So, but if that's something that doesn't feel comfortable in the beginning, there are other ways you can still share that media placement.
Wonderful. And what did the people who all had their successes and everything, what did they have in common? Was that
Well, it's
in
just
terms
so
of the work
common.
in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it's a conversation I've had with almost every single client, and I just hear it in conversation with people about, oh, hey, I remember listening to that podcast you were on. Did you ever share that out? Like, no, so again, and also I hate to say it, but it's part of relationship building too, because you're basically having reciprocity with the podcast host that interviewed you, by sharing it with your audience. That's almost an expectation of sorts. So if you think about it as part of your obligation when you're doing this work, it might help you kind of get over the hump.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good thinking. Don't put it on
Yeah.
yourself, but that you're helping
Yeah, it's like
promote
this is part of the bigger
the bigger
picture.
picture.
Yeah.
Love
And
it.
one final kind of reframe that I like to think about is that says a lot about my personality. If I love something or someone's work, I like to go deep. So I'm the kind of person that will go through like someone's podcast archives. And adding, sharing a link like that is not only like a way of sharing the joy and kind of your humanness, but also like if someone already loves reading your newsletter, how great it is for them to read more of the cool stuff that you do. So it's also just, I often think about how we're building like an archive, and people can go deep in that and take what they want and what resonates with them, and we're giving them that opportunity. So I think that's excellent suggestions, to use the whole buffalo. Yeah.
Okay, I just have to say one more quick thing, Regina, because
Yes.
that is one other quick commonality that comes up is when I do consults with people, because I work with people one-on-one as well as in, groups and workshops, but they'll say, if I'm going to invest in this PR work, I want to know that it's going to sell books or it's going to get me clients or it's going to bring in this much revenue. And I always say, like, I can't guarantee you that. This is part of that bigger pie. However, like to Astrid's point, when people are thinking about working with us, they are going to vet us not just by searching us on Google or that type of thing or looking at our website, but they're going to see, they want to feel, I always tell like my clients, they want to feel you in 3D. So if they listen to a podcast where they can feel your energy or hear your insights on a topic, or if they read an article, they're like, wow, she was featured in Fast Company. It's part of that bigger decision-making process. So I can't promise you it's directly going to bring you a client, but it will be part of how you get discovered. And I feel like it's an important one.
I agree because it's kind of like little stepping stones in a book, in a way where I will see multiple touch points on someone, and it's not one that sold me, but it's the cumulative, cumulative. I hope I said that right.
You
Cumulative.
did.
So, for those of you who joined late, I just want to give you a couple of quick housekeeping that there will be a replay. If now that you've registered, I will email you when the replay is up so that you can watch it. And of course, if you have any questions for any one of our panelists, please send them in the chat. Only we see the chat, so we'll be addressing those questions as they happen, or we have a dedicated Q&A time at the end, for all of you. All right. So Susan, you're up next. So what are the channels outside of social media that you see are working for your clients right now?
All right. So this is the way I like to put it, guys. When you are playing in social media land, you're behind what I call a digital wall. You are, you're at your computer and you're using those channels to reach out. The best way for you to get outside of the digital wall and make real connections is to meet people and to really be able to cultivate relationships. People buy from people they like and trust. I know it's so old, but it's still true. So here's one thing that I would say is get out there and meet the right people. And no one's wrong, but there are some that are better connections. I want you to think about, everybody has a piece of paper really quickly. Just draw a circle in the middle of your paper and put your client in there. You can put a name to it or just ICP, whatever you want, ideal person from me. And then you put like spokes, almost like a Sputnik. You put little spokes around it and circles on the end of each spoke. The person that you want to do business with has something they need and something they desire. And there's other people that work with that same person. And so how can you meet the people that are involved with your client and leverage relationships to get introduced, to get referred, to do collaborations? I'll give you an example of this. I work with yoga therapists, a ton of yoga therapists. And the middle of their circle are people who have chronic pain, and really want better quality life. On the outside edges, there's physical therapists, there's acupuncturists, massage therapists. There's all of these people floating out there, and they can create amazing partnerships, leveraging each other's thought leadership to fulfill the needs of that client. That's the way you want to think. What does your client need? Who's helping them? And how can I create relationships with those people so that we can do a better job of making a holistic ecosystem for that person?
I love that. And I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit, Susan, because I went to a conference and I heard this idea and I was like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And it was a conference for decorative painters. And there was a big time painter, his name again escapes me, but he was saying he created a collaboration where he said interior designers are one of my ICPs, my ideal client persona, going out there. And so he reached out to a tile person, and I think he reached out to a flooring person, somebody that didn't do what he did, but they had the same client persona. And he said, let's put together a presentation at the paint shop on a topic that's great for interior designers. And so they pulled in the interior designers, the one that everybody uses. They had their own thing. The paint store was ecstatic and gave them a free spot because they were like, interior designers, yeah, bring them in, and they had this, lunch and learn kind of thing. And they got so much business because of those collaborations. They weren't competing with each other, but they each had the same one. So when you do those collaborations like that, it creates a win-win situation for everybody.
And it also makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It's the absolute opposite of feeling the ick of posting on social media. What you're doing is you're collaborating with people. Human beings love people. So get out there and just do something energizing, and have fun with it.
It's true. All right. So let's talk a little bit about AI, because I know that you work with AI systems as well.
I do.
Human-centered AI, which is something that I'm very familiar with too. You and I have had conversations. How does AI change the game for a small business owner who wants to get found, but they don't have a big team and they don't have a huge budget?
So good. All right, listen, AI needs trust signals from you so they can find you. I just had a client this week who got ecstatically excited. She said, someone searched on AI for a solution and it recommended me.
Yes.
And yes. And that's the end goal is, you guys are all going crazy over using AI to create content and do these, little things in your business. That's all well and good. But there's such a bigger part that AI can play in spreading your thought leadership. I have this one prompt that I've worked through with all my clients called the 50 questions my ideal client is asking AI. And if you can just do one thing, write content on the questions your people are asking, because AEO, all right, AEO, you probably have all heard it. It's bypassing SEO now to be artificial intelligence, search engine optimization. It will crawl out there where you've written a newsletter on Substack, where you've created a blog post on maybe your website, and it will find the answers that your person is looking for and then return you to them directly. That's the ultimate game in how you can use AI.
Love it.
Oh, can I share a resource based on what Susan said? One of my clients is an SEO expert, and she recommends when you type those questions in the search bar, looking at the people also asked, it'll kind of show you the related questions and such. That's a great way to start building that list of 50 that Susan recommends. She also highly recommends having frequently asked questions. She says on every page of your website at the bottom, again, like to get that optimization in there. And then one of the tools I've used is called Answer the People. I don't know if anyone else has used that. It's a really cool website where you can, again, tap into questions related to, your area of expertise. So I love so what Susan just said is brilliant. So those are some ways you can start building that list.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. And just when you were speaking, Jen, I thought of Reddit as well, which I know has
Love
a
it.
mixed reputation. But I recently discovered something that probably lots of you already know, that if you go to like the Reddit on newsletters or the Reddit about Substack, there's a little bar to the side that says questions that people ask. And it was only like a short list of like maybe 3 to 4 questions, but that is a really nice starting place and a really nice addition to your 50 questions.
Excellent.
I did not know that, Astrid. So just to let you know, not everybody knows that, and that's a great point, because Reddit, as you know, has these subreddits where it's specific
Yeah,
topics,
about everything.
about everything. Yeah, I even found a subtopic. I'm just going to say it, on people who dislike dogs, and they
Oh,
talk about, and I'm like, how could you?
They're not worth knowing.
You know,
I'm just kidding.
it's just like, no. But I love Reddit. I haven't found it to be this horrific, sometimes I think it has a worse reputation that I'm sure some subreddits are bad, but for me it's been very helpful, you know.
yeah.
All right. So let me look at the time. Oh, we have some good time. So I've got some extra questions to throw that out. And then we'll tackle some questions if they come in. So if you do have questions for any of the panelists, please send them in, and they can answer specific questions for you, or just send it to it generally. One of them wrote in Nick May, and yes, Beth, Nick May was the name of the person who did the key speaking presentation, who told the idea of that collaboration in the painter's world. So thank you, Beth. It was Nick May. And you can look him up. He's fantastic in the painting world. All right. So I want to talk about findability, being findable, and being visible. So, what is the difference between being findable and
Mm.
being visible? And does it matter? Because I always think of findable as Google search,
Like a push-pull.
website, and visibility is like, oh, I heard you on a podcast,
Yeah.
and I saw you on a press. So are both equally important in this? I think they are.
Yes.
Findable and visible.
Mm.
The distinction that, oh, go ahead, Astrid.
No, go ahead, please. I was just going to say that I think that they don't need to be, I mean, they can happen at the same time, right? And I think it already, someone might find your website, but even your website is something where you can really play with visibility, right? You can have a standard about page, or you can have a video of you, which immediately has, perhaps, I mean, if you're comfortable with it,
Yes.
it gives you, it gives more personality. Or you could have, I mean, probably leading with "I hate dogs," which the Reddit, I don't, but I'm referring back to the Reddit thread, it's probably not the right thing to share with people, depending on your niche. But you could share something else, right? Something surprising about your background. So that's just my thought. But Jen, go ahead. You probably have something more in depth to say here.
What came up for me, right away when Regina said that was, and you guys tell me what you think, because this is kind of just like a off the cuff moment here, but I was
Go for
thinking
it.
that findability is really about your business as an entity, and visibility is about you as a person. And I think visibility is really an energetic thing where, again, people can feel you in 3D. So they're going to read what you have to say. They're going to hear what you have to say. They're going to learn from you. Whereas findability is like, okay, I discovered this amazing person through visibility. How can I find them and work with them? So it's like they're going to go to your website. They're going to click the link tree. So it's almost like it is a yin and yang for sure. But to me, like visibility is that energetic piece of discovery of, wow, I got to learn more about this person. And then you find them through their website, through the channels.
Yep. Yep. Love it. For me, it's because I think people confuse them, as to what it is. And I think that's a great way of looking at it, as energy. And Astrid, I love that idea of when somebody goes to your website, instead of this being like this bio, you can just speak and you can just be, hi, I'm this person, and they'll immediately know. And it's that energy gen, where people
Mm.
come through. Okay. How now someone, let's say, has built their entire lead generation on social media. How do they diversify
Mm,
without losing momentum in their business?
that's not hard. Um, here's what I think about building your business on social media lead generation. It's one portal in. It's just one little way that people can find you. They go to social media, they see you, they take the next step. Oh, lead magnet, great. Now I'm on email list. Oh, great. Now I nurture their relationship. Then they come to, so it's one step in. So if you're going to truly unplug social media, you just need to find a different portal for them to be able to connect and be aware of who you are and what you do. So my recommendation would be don't unplug until you've got that strategy built out.
Mhm.
But there's so many different ways that you can meet people. We've all been talking about things today that could replace that one step. Don't lose the rest of the nurturing process just because you're going to unplug social.
I always think of it as almost like three different, um, portals, so to speak. One is
Mhm.
social media, one is digital, which is your website, your
Mhm.
press, your
Mhm.
podcasts, and the other is local and community.
Mhm.
So when you are and those three help support your business, and of course, different things fit in different um, portals. But if they're supporting your business equally, and you decide I'm going to take this one out, then the other two need to,
The third leg of a stool.
yeah, yeah, exactly, be more robust in order to
Yes.
support that. So, and you can leave social media completely or just do it partially or less than what you're doing and decide which one's really working. But they all have to kind of support your entire business. It's kind of how I
They
see
do.
that
They do.
happening there.
Yeah. The day that somebody comes and knocks on your front door and says, "Oh, I heard that you were in here and I want to do business with you." That's the day that I'll retire. There you go, Jen. It ain't going to happen, people.
Yeah.
So, like Regina said, you've got to have your stool. You've got to have your prongs in place. But do the ones you love. It goes right back to the beginning of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you do things that you don't love, it just drains you. Do what you love and amp up that, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to add to that, I think we sometimes don't realize how vulnerable we potentially are by using all of these external platforms. And that's one of the reasons. I mean, obviously we do, but if something like Instagram decides, I mean, to change the algorithm, right? I know of lots of people who are like, I've cracked the algorithm. And then 3 months later, the algorithm changes. And that's also a reason why I love my website so much. Of course, like WordPress could decide tomorrow to go completely offline and I don't have a website. But also think about not putting all your eggs in one basket and indeed diversifying and looking at, okay, so what is my strongest piece and where do I want people to go? And what I've found interesting is for a blog post, I kind of dove into like all of these sort of marketing reports on what platforms people spend their time on. And one of the things that they looked at is also that, are they like just like, okay, I'm only going to be on Instagram. People are not only on one channel, right? So if you leave Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it's not like this whole chunk of people just sort of like fell away, right? They'll find you through a search engine, if your website is performing well, or they'll find you through another way. So I think that's another good thing to remember. If you feel like, okay, if I leave social media, I'm kind of pushing my business into the abyss. It's not necessarily the case if you've got those other things in place.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah,
It's,
and
it's,
oh, go ahead.
well, go
Sorry,
ahead, Jen.
Regina.
Go ahead, go
No,
ahead, go ahead.
no. You have so much to say, or I want you to have room to speak.
No,
But I
no,
do have a resource I want to share at some point. Go ahead. Oh, do you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yes. We're
No,
here for
I was
you.
just gonna say really quickly, leaving social media, right? There's this idea that it has to be all or nothing. But
Mhm.
one interesting approach I've heard, and some of you may already do this, is something, this is related to Instagram, but a static 9 grid. It's kind of a
Yes.
happy medium. So let's say you're not wanting to be posting reels or being super active on Instagram. You can design a static 9 grid that will be almost like a standing presence for you to have on Instagram where people can kind of reference those different posts and kind of discover you in that way, but you're not having to regularly update. There's an entrepreneur called Deanna Seymour. She designs static 9 grids for people, and she also has DIY templates. You can do your own too. You don't have to buy a template, but if you need kind of that running start, there are people who design them. But again, it's kind of that happy medium if you're not ready to completely say goodbye. To your point, Regina, if you said, hey, you're already generating leads, but you're getting fatigued around posting, maybe
Mhm.
there are some happy medium approaches you could try.
Love that. And thank you for saying that, because there are ways to lessen or to leave, but if you do decide, there are ways that you can let people know in those platforms, here's where I am. And I love the static 9 grid idea. I love it. And I've been exploring it for myself too. So it's, a very viable idea. Okay, so I'm going to bring up one of the biggest words in social media. How important is consistency?
Ugh.
But we're not relating it to social media. What does consistency mean when you are not posting every day?
I
Anybody want to jump
I
in?
have a lot of thoughts about that. I think I've written about 2 Substack posts by now that say consistency is a myth.
Mhm.
Um, I actually, but I won't bore you with the full thing. I'm a word and language person, so I looked into the dictionary definition of consistency, which actually relates much more to quality than to frequency. It's just
Mm.
that in social media, right, we've kind of internalized this idea, I need to be consistent, i.e., I need to show up every day. Um, with newsletters, I often think about, because that's one of the many things I talk about, but I choose platforms that don't reward me for my attention. So the time that I spend on a platform. And I also I don't want to be fixed in like a straitjacket of every Monday I need to do this. So, for instance, if you send out a newsletter and you've been doing it every second Monday of the month and you miss a month, um, there are not going to be a lot of people who on that Monday start thinking, I haven't received this person's newsletter yet. I mean, like maybe like your mom, but and this is not a bad thing, right? This is just as humans, we are self-involved. I mean, we don't think that much about I haven't received this person's newsletter yet. So I think consistency needs to be, you need to think a lot more about what works for you. If you decide to do a thing every week and then after 4 or 5 weeks you fall behind, get demotivated and stop, why not try something that is more flexible and that feels more doable? I'm going to do this every month or like twice a month. And then what works for you? And scheduling is your friend for everything.
I
Yep.
love how you say that word, Astrid. Scheduling. Sounds so sexy. Hey, can I pick
Thank
up?
you. Yes.
Pick up? Here's the thing, guys. Consistency matters in one very specific way. Astrid alluded to it. It's quality of your message. Um, I would not worry about the number of times I post, especially if you're not a social media, fanatic. But when you talk, say it in a way that your person recognizes you.
Yeah.
And so you need to have a very clear message, and it needs to be codified, if you could use that word, or what I like to say is a business manifesto. This is my beliefs, and this is the way I look at it. This is how I solve it, and use the words consistently so that when and if someone comes across you, they recognize you, and they're like, when the right time is right, they know who to connect with.
Yes. All right. Well, ladies, we have not had any questions come in. So I am going to ask you one final question, and then I'm going to have you, tell everybody how to find you because all of you have shared such valuable information. Thank you. What What is one? Oh, where'd it go? Mm, 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 mm. Hold on, please. Here we go. If someone could only do one thing this week to start marketing beyond social, what would it be?
Mine kind of goes
Um,
back to, oh,
yeah, no, go ahead. Go, please go ahead.
no, mine kind of goes back to what Susan said earlier, around taking inventory of what has worked for you well.
Mm.
Like anytime I do a launch, my programs are usually smallish, like under 15 people, so I can easily track, where did they come from? Did they come from a referral? Did they come from, a posting I did on a certain website? And so I kind of look at, okay, what is actually bringing people to me? And then I can reconfigure in my next launch or my next venture. And so I would really do an inventory. And I think, Regina, you said it too earlier of like, is is social media actually bringing me anything, or is it just something I feel like I have to do?
Mhm.
And then you can get really intentional about how you're approaching your marketing going forward because we're all different. There is no one size fits all playbook. And so you get to work with how you're wired and kind of design your own marketing approach that feels good.
Yeah,
It's
and,
true.
and to add to that, one of the things that I often talk about with my clients and sort of in my courses and programs is not just kind of the numbers, and especially if you are newish or you haven't run a program before, you might not have that data. But even if you do have the data, to combine it with, where does your energy come from? What are your strengths? Do you love writing? Okay, maybe that's something you need to do. Do you love video? Go with that to really think about doing like an audit. And maybe, you're thinking about leaving social media or decreasing it. What are you already doing? What do you want to, put more emphasis on? Does your newsletter need to work harder? Do you want to pick up your podcast or start a podcast or really to think about it in that way, to kind of do this sort of like strength-based audit, as well as looking at any numbers that you might have.
It's true because people are like, oh, I have to do social media. I have to do social media. And then you just get into a mindset that, wait, do I? Is there something else that could fill
Mhm.
that in? And all of us can answer that own question for ourselves, and go from there. Okay, I hope everyone has enjoyed the presentation. Ladies, I want you each to tell us how to get a hold of you, where to find you, what you have going on, because you've shared such valuable information. And I know that those who came in are going to want to continue and learning from you. So, Jen, we'll start off with you, Astrid, and then we'll finish up with Susan.
Yeah, so if DIY PR or working with someone to do PR is something that you're interested in, I would love to speak with you. And when I say PR, I really mean visibility because I work with my clients around getting media coverage, but we also work on getting podcast appearances and online speaking opportunities and such. And so I'd be happy to do a 30-minute just like consult, like no hard selling or anything. Just sit down and be like, what makes sense for you around visibility? Happy to offer a 30-minute consult to anyone. And I also I lead what I call Start Your Press intensive several times a year, where it's a 2-day workshop where I teach you how to use those bridge platforms we talked about, where you can get, top tier media placements and start doing DIY PR. So that will actually be coming up in November. So if you want to drop me an email, I think Regina is going to be sending out some links.
Yes.
Happy to share the link to the landing page to get on the wait list for that. Would love to have any of you in there and just kind of nerd out on what DIY PR could look like for you.
Nerd out on PR. I love that.
She's really good, you guys. Really.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. Astrid?
Yeah, so basically everything that I do from like my newsletter to the one-to-one mentoring and courses and programs that I run is all about small business without the hustle. So a lot of the things that I said today about starting with you and your values and also your life, right? We don't all have the same amount of time to spend on marketing or on our business. So if you want to discover more, I'd love it if you would sign up to my newsletter or explore some of my courses. I talked a lot about newsletter today. There's a course, Small Business Newsletter Magic, that I run that might be interesting to you, or my Substack course as well. It's specific to this topic. I have a free email series. I've been running it for years about moving your business away from social media. And it's 4 weeks, and every week you get like prompt and suggestions. And you can find it on my website, astridbracke.com/social media.
Love it. And I will, when I send out the replay, I will be sending links out so that you can find these. So everybody can access. I wouldn't want to lose connections with the three of you. Okay. Susan, thank you, Astrid. Susan.
Awesome. So listen, I'm going to go back to the beginning. The playbook has changed, everybody. The things that we've done 4 or 5 years ago just aren't working the way they did. AI is a big part of that. And so there's a new playbook, and I am having an event. As a matter of fact, the playbook has changed. It's a strategy room. It is not a webinar. It's somewhere where you can come, and we're actually going to explore the 3 shifts that are really making a difference for people today in getting visibility, getting trusted, and getting chosen, and work on them while we're in the room together. So it's next Wednesday. If you'd like to join me, it's free. Just use the QR code or the link that Regina sends to you in the replay. Thanks for letting me be here today, Regina.
Oh, no, I want to thank every single one of you. Thank you so much for the great information that you shared and your beautiful personalities. And I want to thank the attendees who came in. We thank you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you
was
so much.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So inspiring and lovely to connect with all of you.
Oh, I felt the same too. So, all right, everyone, have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.